guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my mid-year book freakout tag. Honestly, all of the details are going to be linked below. I don't really know off the top of my head who the original creators are, but I'll be sure to mention them down in the description box. But other than that, let's just jump right into it. Everybody's doing the mid-year freakout tag, so I guess it's that time of year. And question number 1 is the best book that you've read so far in 2022, and honestly, at this point, it's so hard for me to pick just one. So I'm going to pick a few. Off the top of my head, the very first one I can think of is The Liar's Knot by M.A. Carrick. This is book 2 in the Rook and the Rose trilogy? Series? I'm not sure. It was one of the first things that I read this year. I read it all the way back in January, and it was a phenomenal sequel to The Mask of Mirrors. I liked it more than I liked the first book, and I really, really liked the first book, so that's really saying something. It was so good. I don't really know what else to tell you guys. I adored it. The next one on the list is going to be Love on the Brain by HAZELWOOD. This is her second book after The Love Hypothesis. It's another STEM romance, kind of enemies to lovers, forced proximity sort of thing. But then they kind of became friends to lovers, I guess. It was precious. Honestly, I loved it more than I liked The Love Hypothesis, and that's kind of saying something. It was phenomenal. Following that is All Roads Lead Here by MARIANA ZAPATA, which is her latest standalone. I think it's her newest one. Her newest standalone. It's small town romance vibes, grumpy sunshine kind of deal. Guys, it was so good. If you had to start with any book from MARIANA ZAPATA, I might point you at this one. It was just fantastic from beginning to end. There was a little bit of celebrity culture in there. There was a little bit of a mystery in there. It was fantastic. I loved every single second of it. I think I'm just gonna leave it at those three. Although if I did have to throw a sci-fi in there because I had a fantasy and a romance, I would probably be talking about Sibylla Byrne because that's the 4th book in the Expanse series. I loved it. It's maybe my top favorite Expanse book so far over Leviathan Wakes, and I loved Leviathan Wakes. But Sibylla Byrne, the conflict in it and the whole premise was just so good and so emotional and just so realistic outside of the fantastical elements of the plot. It was so realistic in terms of the human interactions that it just really, really hit you where it hurts. And it was so good because of that and that alone. I guess I kind of already answered question 2, because the best sequel that you've read so far in 2022, it's gotta be The Liar's Knot for me. I loved it so much, and it's the top of the list for sure. I mean, I liked Sibylla Byrne a lot, but if I were to compare the two, the feelings that I had during The Liar's Knot far outweighed the feelings that I had during Sibylla Byrne. The characters in The Rook and the Rose just are some of my favorite characters that I have ever read. I feel every single thing that they're going through. I am shipping the relationship that has developed so hard. I love it. Number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet, but you want to. Well, there's a couple that I could talk about. I think that I'm going to go with The Children of Ragnarok by Cinda Williams-Chima, which I started and then hit a reading slump hard, so I haven't finished it. That is coming out later on this year, and I have an arc for it, so definitely want to jump on that before it comes out. I am also in the middle of LOCKLANDS by Robert Jackson Bennett. It came out at the end of June, so technically I really do want to get to that. I'm halfway through it. I am technically getting to it now, but I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know if it counts quite yet. So those are probably the two that I most wanted to get to, that I was most excited about, that I haven't had a chance to read yet. There's another new release that's coming out later this year that I am excited for, and that is the latest Mistborn Era 2 book, but it's not out yet and I don't have an arc, so I don't know if I can count that. Apparently, the fact that I have done the mid-year book freakout tag previously has made me just answer follow-up questions, because most anticipated release for the second half of the year is question number 4. That is everything that I just said. The Cinda Williams-Chima book, Runestone Saga, and whatever the latest, The Lost Metal, that's what it's called. Book 7 in Mistborn, technically book 4 of Mistborn Era 2, that is coming out later this year. I have my pre-order in already. I cannot wait to dive back into that as soon as possible. Number 5 is Biggest Disappointment. If I'm being perfectly honest, I have had a pretty good reading year. I don't think I've had anything lower than a 3-star, so to say that it is a disappointment still means that it was relatively okay. in my eyes. Obviously, this is all subjective, just that I had expected it to be much higher and it was not. So, top of that list is House of Sky and Breath. I ended up dropping it down to 3 stars. It's maybe worth a 2.5. I don't know. It was not what I had hyped it up in my head to be. There were so many useless subplots. There were so many things that the characters did that frustrated me. She was way too focused on, like, them being horny for each other and sex literally all the time that, like, fine, I get it, but it didn't really work out the way that I was hoping for it to. And Crescent City House of Earth and Blood is definitely way better in my eyes. I really enjoyed that first one, not so much with the second one. Question number 6 is biggest surprise, and I am honestly going to go with All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I had been putting it off, and I really have no reason why, because I've never read anything by her that I didn't absolutely love, but I think I wasn't expecting to love it quite as much as I did. This book blew me away. This book made me cry. This book made me laugh out loud. This book ran me through all of the emotions, and as soon as I finished it, I wanted to pick it back up and read it all over again. It was so good, and obviously it was a 5 stars. I did not expect to read it and have it be competing with my former favorite Mariana Zapata book, which is Wait For It, but it 100% did. I don't think that either of them is beating the other. I think that they're just tied in the first position because I love them both for different reasons. Question number 7 is favorite new author, whether it's a debut author or a new to you author. The first one that jumps to my mind is Ali Hazelwood, because I read The Love Hypothesis back in January or February, so I had not read anything by Ali Hazelwood previously. A woman from STEM writing about STEM in a steamy romance novel is pretty much everything that I need in my life to satisfy me. I work in a STEM field myself, and I very rarely get to see that depicted accurately in the books that I read. It's something that I kind of just have written off as, oh, well, you don't need to worry about whether or not it's truly accurate kind of a thing. But Ali Hazelwood knocks it out of the park every single time. I loved The Love Hypothesis. I loved Love on the Brain. Definitely one of my favorite reads of the year. She's definitely one of my new favorite authors. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. And if it is not the main character from Love on the Brain, whose name I think is Lee, something along those lines. I need to reread that book immediately. Then it is either the main character from Nightwork, the Nora Roberts book, who is pretty much an identical match to Neil Caffrey from White Collar, or it would be Gray from The Liar's Knot, because I did not have a fictional crush on him when I read The Mask of Mirrors last year, but when I read The Liar's Knot, it pretty much developed into full-blown hardcore crush. So I adore him a lot, and those are probably the only options that I have. There's nobody else that I read this year that really sticks out to me in that way, so I think that's gonna have to be it. Question number 9 is newest favorite character, and I forgot to mention Rhodes from All Roads Lead Here in my previous statement, so add him to my fictional crush list, but also add him to my newest favorite character because I adored, well, not just Rhodes, but everybody in that book. I adored everybody so much. They're all my new favorite people. 10 is a book that made you cry. I think that might be the only one that I really cried during this year. I can't think of anything else that I cried during yet. I haven't read anything that has been quite that emotional, but I think that there was a scene that I teared up in for All Roads Lead Here. 11 is a book that made you happy, and not to harp on the exact same point, obviously that one, I'm going to sprinkle in some other ones because I can't just keep talking about All Roads Lead Here, and I can't keep talking about The Liar's Knot, so I've got to tell you guys something else that I read. This has been a really romance-heavy reading year for me, trying to pull myself out of that reading slump that I keep talking about. So most of those, I don't think I really read a single bad one. They all made me happy. If you guys haven't seen any of my monthly wrap-ups over the last couple of months, they are full of books that made me happy purely because I was trying to get out of a reading slump. So yeah, any of those romances most likely. Specifically Love on the Brain. That was a really good one. I was trying not to mention a book that I'd already mentioned, but there you go, I can't stop myself. The most beautiful book that you've bought this year or received. This is a hard one. I have a lot of those because I had a Fairy Loot subscription, and those books are all really stunningly gorgeous. I also received the Ninth Reign, which is the Broken Bindings subscription service that they have, and that's absolutely stunning. Do I have a favorite one that I have gotten recently? I don't know. Without having to show you guys, I would say pretty much any of the Fairy Loot books that I've received over the last year or so. Fairy Loot, even if I don't necessarily love every single book that they choose, their customizations tend to knock it out of the park. I will say with their adult box, I feel like they got a little bit more boring with their customizations. They just weren't as, I don't know, original to me. They kind of stuck with the exact same color palette for every single one of them, but they're still pretty. They just kind of felt the same. But yeah, those are stunning. This is stunning. Pretty much any of the special editions that I have are books that I feel like are the most beautiful book that I've received so far. Question 13 is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? I have a whole list of arcs that I needed to have gotten to by the end of this year. I am massively behind. See reading slump, previously discussed. But I guess Locklands, Children of Ragnarok, Flamefall by Rosaria Munda, I really need to have read probably this month because the next book, Fury Song, is coming out and I have an arc for it and I need to read the second book before I can read the arc of the third one. So those are probably my top priorities as the ones that I've really, really wanted to get to the most and just haven't yet. I have started both Children of Ragnarok and Locklands. I should be finishing them by the end of this year, but hopefully we'll get to them. Okay, you guys, that was the mid-year book freakout tag. Like I said, I'll link everything about it, the questions and the original creators that I can find down in the description box. And down there, you're also going to see my rep codes for both Unplugged Book Box and Hello Lovely Box. Underneath that are links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram in case you guys wanted to follow me on any of those. But that's it for me today, guys. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!